Danny Cole wiped the grease from his hands and looked out the window of his small workshop. The lower decks of 7 Station were never quiet. Ships came and went at all hours. Refugees from a dozen worlds walked the corridors looking for work, food, or just a safe place to sleep. He had been on this station for 3 years now. He fixed things. Broken engines, damaged life support units, salvage equipment that nobody else wanted to touch. It was honest work. It paid enough to keep his shop running and food in his stomach. Danny turned back to the sensor array he was repairing when he noticed her again. The girl was sitting against the wall across from his shop. She was young, maybe 8 years old by human standards. Her skin was pale gray, almost white, and her eyes were large and empty. She was one of the tall alien species known for their ability to see light that humans could not even imagine. But this girl could not see anything at all. Danny had first noticed her a week ago. She sat in the same spot every day while her grandfather worked on the docks. The old would leave her there in the morning and come back for her in the evening. She never moved. She never played. She just sat with her hands folded in her lap, listening to the world she could not see. The other refugees avoided her. Danny had watched them walk past, their large eyes looking away, their voices dropping to whispers. He had heard the word they used, cursed. It made Danny angry in a way he could not fully explain. He put down his tools and walked to his storage cabinet. Inside was a box of spare parts and broken gadgets. He dug through it until he found what he was looking for. It was a small metal ball that he had built months ago from scrap. When you shook it, tiny bells inside made a soft ringing sound. Danny walked out of his shop and crossed the corridor. The girl did not move as he approached. She could not see him, but he knew she could hear his footsteps. He stopped in front of her and knelt down. "Hey there," he said softly. "My name is Danny. I work in that shop over there." The girl tilted her head toward the sound of his voice. Her empty eyes looked through him. "I made something," Danny continued. "I thought you might like it." He placed the metal ball in her hands. Her thin fingers closed around it. She shook it gently and the bells rang. For the first time, Danny saw her smile. He went back to his shop, feeling better than he had in months. The next day, he made her another toy. This one was a small box that played different tones when you pressed its buttons. The day after that, he made a bracelet with beads that clicked together. Each time, he would walk across the corridor, kneel down, and place the gift in her hands. She never spoke, but she always smiled. On the 5th day, an old approached Danny's shop. His gray skin was weathered and lined with age. His large eyes held a deep sadness that seemed to have been there for many years. "You are the human who gives gifts to my granddaughter," the old alien said. Danny stood up from his workbench. "Yes, I hope that is okay. I did not mean to cause any trouble." "You have caused no trouble," the old paused. "My name is the child is." Danny repeated, "That is a nice name." Looked down at the floor. "You are kind to her, kinder than my own people have been, but I must tell you your kindness cannot change what she is. She was born without sight. Among my people this is considered a punishment from the old spirits, a mark of shame." Danny felt his jaw tighten. "She is just a kid. She did not do anything wrong." "I know this." Voice was heavy. "I have known this since the day she was born, but belief is a powerful thing. Our healers will not help her. Our priests say her condition cannot be changed. They say it is fate." Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Where I come from, we do not believe much in fate. We believe in fixing things." Looked at him with something like hope and fear mixed together. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I am good at building things. Maybe I could build something that would help her see." The old shook his head slowly. "Human, I appreciate your heart, but sight is not like human sight. Our eyes see across many spectrums of light. Our brains process vision in ways your science does not understand. No machine could replace what never had." Danny crossed his arms. Maybe, but I would like to try. Stared at him for a long moment. You truly believe you could help her? I do not know, Danny admitted, but I know that sitting here doing nothing will not help her either. The old was silent. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. There are those among my people who would be angry if they knew you were trying this. There are old laws about interfering with the blind. Why? Danny asked. Hesitated. I do not know all the reasons. They are lost to time, but the laws are clear. The blind must remain as they are. Danny looked past to where sat against the wall, shaking the little metal ball and listening to its bells. I am not, Danny said quietly. Your laws do not apply to me. That night after the station lights dimmed, Danny sat alone in his workshop. He pulled out a blank and began to sketch. Lines and shapes took form on the screen. A visor, a neural interface, a way to turn light into signals that a blind brain might understand. It was impossible. Everyone would tell him so. Danny smiled to himself and kept drawing. 3 weeks passed. Danny worked on the visor every night after his regular jobs were done. His workshop became filled with scattered notes and failed prototypes. The problem was bigger than he had expected. Brains did not process vision the way human brains did. Their optical nerves connected to completely different regions. Their neural pathways were shaped by millions of years of evolution that had nothing to do with Earth. Danny needed information, real medical data about biology, the kind of information that was not available in public databases. He found himself standing outside a small shop on the lower decks. The sign above the door was written in 3 languages. None of them were human. Inside, a woman sat behind a counter covered in data chips and old tech. There were thin creatures with 4 arms and skin that changed color with their mood. This one was currently a calm blue. You are the human mechanic, she said without looking up. Danny Cole, you fix salvage equipment. You have never come to my shop before. Danny stepped inside. You sell information. I sell many things. Her skin shifted to a curious yellow. What do you need? Medical data, neural architecture, brain mapping, anything you have. Finally looked at him. Her 4 arms folded across her chest. That is restricted information. The do not share their medical science with outsiders. I know, Danny pulled out a credit chip. I can pay. Took the chip and examined it. Her skin turned a satisfied green. This will cover the cost, but I must ask why a human mechanic needs brain scans. Danny told her about the little blind girl who sat outside his shop every day, about his plan to build a visor that might help her see. Skin shifted through several colors as she listened. When Danny finished, she was a strange mix of orange and purple. You are either very kind or very foolish, she said. Probably both, Danny admitted. Reached under her counter and pulled out a data chip. This contains what you need, stolen from a medical archive 2 years ago, but I must warn you about something. Danny took the chip. What? They have strict rules about blindness, very old rules, religious in nature. Skin darkened. They do not speak of the reasons, but I have heard stories. Long ago there were who could see things that others could not. They were called they could perceive dimensions beyond normal reality. Danny frowned. What happened to them? They were sealed. Their power was locked away. They decided it was too dangerous. Leaned forward. The laws against helping the blind exist for a reason, human. The fear that some blindness is not a punishment but a protection. Danny shook his head. Is just a little girl. She is not some ancient mystic. Perhaps, Skin returned to calm blue, but be careful. Some doors are closed for good reasons. Danny thanked her and left. He did not believe in old stories and ancient fears. He believed in circuits and code and solving problems. Back in his workshop, he loaded the data chip into his system. Hours of medical information filled his screens. Brain structure, neural pathway maps, optical processing centers. It was complex, more complex than anything Danny had worked with before, but as he studied the data, patterns began to emerge. He saw how the visual cortex connected to their sensory systems. He saw gaps where a blind person's neural pathways would be incomplete. He could bridge those gaps, he was sure of it. Danny began building in earnest. He took apart old sensor arrays and salvaged their components. He modified a neural interface that had been designed for a completely different species. He wrote code that would translate visual data into signals the brain might accept. The hardest part was the focusing lens. The visor needed something that could capture light across all the spectrums that normally saw. Standard lenses would not work. Danny searched through his junk piles for days. He visited salvage dealers and scrap merchants. He was about to give up when he found it. It was buried in a box of worthless cargo that a trader was selling for almost nothing. A small crystal, no bigger than his thumb, that seemed to glow faintly even in the dark. Danny did not know what it was. The trader did not know either. But when Danny held it up to his scanner, the readings were unlike anything he had seen before. The crystal captured light across spectrums that his equipment could barely measure. It was perfect. He did not know that the crystal was He did not know that it had been hidden among junk cargo centuries ago by a priest who feared what it could do. He did not know that it was one of the last remaining artifacts from the age of the. Danny only knew that it would make his visor work. 2 more weeks passed. Danny barely slept. He ate when he remembered to. His regular work suffered, but he did not care. The visor was almost complete. On the night he finished, Elder came to his shop. "You have been working hard," the old said. "The other refugees talk about the human who never sleeps." Danny held up the visor. It was not beautiful. It was made of salvaged metal and recycled parts. The glowed softly at its center. "I finished it," Danny said. "I do not know if it will work, but I want to try." Stared at the device for a long time. Danny could see the fear in his large eyes, but he could also see hope. "The old laws forbid this," whispered. "I know. If the others find out, there will be trouble." "I know." Looked at Danny. "Why do you care so much about a child who is not your own, a child who is not even your species?" Danny thought about the question. "Because she smiles when I give her toys. Because she deserves better than sitting alone in a corridor. Because where I come from, we do not leave kids behind just because they are different." The old closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet with tears. "Bring her tomorrow," Danny said gently. "Let me try." Nodded slowly. "Tomorrow." That night, Danny sat alone with the visor in his hands. He had no idea if it would work. He had no idea what would happen if it did. But he had to try. The next morning, Elder brought to Danny's workshop. The little girl walked slowly, her hand held tight in her grandfather's grip. She could not see where she was going, but she seemed to know. Her head turned toward the familiar sounds of Danny's machines. Danny had cleared a space in the center of his shop. He had placed a chair there, padded with old blankets to make it comfortable. The visor sat on his workbench, waiting. Danny said softly, kneeling down to her level, "Do you remember me? I am Danny, the one who gives you toys." The girl nodded. Her empty eyes looked toward his voice. "I made something new for you," Danny continued. "It goes over your eyes. I think it might help you see." Tilted her head, "See." It was the first word Danny had ever heard her speak. Her voice was small and quiet, like a bird that had forgotten how to sing. "Yes," Danny said. "Would you like to try?" Did not answer right away. She reached out with her thin fingers and found Danny's face. She touched his cheek, his nose, his closed eyes. She was learning what he looked like the only way she could. "Yes," she finally said. Elder helped her into the chair. Danny picked up the visor and approached slowly. His hands were shaking. He had tested the device on himself and felt only a mild headache, but he had no idea what it would do to a. "This might feel strange," Danny warned. "Tell me if anything hurts." He placed the visor over eyes and fastened the straps behind her head. The at the center began to glow brighter. Danny pressed the activation switch. For a moment nothing happened. The visor hummed quietly, sat perfectly still. Then she gasped. Her small body went rigid. Her hands gripped the arms of the chair. Danny reached for the visor, ready to pull it off, but grabbed his wrist. "Wait," she whispered, "wait." Her breathing was fast. Her gray skin had turned almost white, but she was not in pain. Danny could see that. She was overwhelmed. "What do you see?" asked, his voice trembling. Turned her head slowly, looking around the room. But Danny realized she was not looking at the room. She was looking through it. "Colors," she said. "So many colors, colors that do not have names." Danny checked his instruments. The visor was functioning within normal parameters, but the readings from they were off the charts. "There are shapes," continued. "Shapes that fold into themselves. They are beautiful." She turned toward her grandfather, her covered eyes fixed on him in a way they never had before. "Grandfather," she said, "there is a light inside you. It is old and tired but still burning." Stumbled backward. "What?" Turned to Danny. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "Your light is different," she said. "It burns like a small sun, so bright, so warm." Danny did not understand. "What do you mean? What are you seeing?" "Everything," she whispered. "I see everything." She described things that made no sense. Threads of light connecting every person on the station. Shadows that moved between moments. Colors that existed outside the visible spectrum. Danny tried to adjust the visor. He thought something was wrong with the calibration, but no matter what he changed, description stayed the same. Finally, she reached up and removed the visor herself. Danny expected her to go blind again. He expected the empty look to return to her eyes. But blinked, and she looked at him, really looked at him. "I can still see them," she said softly. "The threads, they are fainter now, but they are still there." Elder fell to his knees. His large eyes were wide with shock and something else, something ancient. He breathed. Danny looked at him. "What did you say?" The voice shook. The seers of old, they could see across dimensions. They could perceive things that no normal could see. They were sealed away thousands of years ago because their sight attracted things from beyond. Danny felt cold. "What are you saying?" The visor did not give her sight. Tears fell freely now. It awakened something that was always inside her, something that was meant to stay sleeping. Within hours, word had spread among the refugees. They came to Danny's shop in small groups, whispering and staring. Some looked at with fear. Others looked at her with reverence. A priest named pushed through the crowd. He was tall even for his species, with eyes that burned with intensity. He looked then at Danny, then at the visor on the workbench. "What have you done?" he demanded. Danny stood between, and "I helped a blind child see, that is all." "That is not all," pointed at. "She carries the sight of a power that was locked away for good reason. Do you know why human? Do you know what happens when it opens their eyes?" "Tell me," Danny said. "They become beacons." Voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Things from beyond the veil can sense them. Things that hunger, things that have been waiting." Danny looked at. She sat quietly in her chair, watching the threads of light that only she could see. "She is just a child," Danny said. "She is the first to be born in 1,000 years," shook his head. "And you, human, have lit a fire that will be seen across dimensions. Whatever comes now is on your head." Danny clenched his fists. He looked at her small face and her new eyes that saw too much. "Then I will protect her," he said. "Whatever comes, I will stand with her." Stared at him. "You do not understand what you are promising." Danny did not look away. I understand enough. Reached out and took Danny's hand again. Her grip was small but steady. He has a bright light, she said softly too. Brighter than anything I have ever seen. He is not afraid. Had no answer for that. The strange event started 3 days later. Danny was working in his shop when the lights flickered, not just in his room but across the entire lower deck. The station had backup systems that never failed. They failed that night. Then came the shadows. People reported seeing things that moved wrong, shapes in the corners of their vision that disappeared when they looked directly at them. A dock worker claimed he saw a figure standing in an empty corridor that had too many arms. A merchant said she heard whispers in a language that made her ears hurt. Danny found sitting in her usual spot outside his shop, but now she was not alone. Elder sat beside her, and his face was gray with worry. She has not slept, said. She says she cannot close her eyes. She sees things even in the dark. Danny knelt down in front of, "What do you see?" The girl looked at him with eyes that held too much knowledge for someone so young. "Something is watching me," she said calmly. "From very far away. It has been sleeping for a long time, but now it is waking up. It can feel me like I can feel it." Danny felt fear in his chest, but he pushed it down. "Is it going to hurt you?" "Thought about this. No, I do not think it wants to hurt me, but it is very hungry, and it is very big." The High Council sent a delegation to 7 within the week. 5 elders arrived on a ship that gleamed with old technology and older symbols. They were led by a female named High Elder, who carried herself like someone who had made difficult decisions for many years. They met in the station's council chamber. Danny insisted on being present. So did Elder. High Elder looked at for a long moment. Then she turned to Danny. "You are the human who built the device," she said. It was not a question. "I am," Danny replied. "Do you understand what you have done?" "I helped a child see." Shook her head slowly. "You have awakened a power that we sealed away 1,000 years ago. That nearly destroyed our civilization. Their sight opened doors that should have stayed closed. Things came through those doors. Things that fed on our people. Then why did you seal the power instead of finding a way to control it?" Danny asked. The chamber went silent, stared at him as if he had spoken in a language she did not understand. "Control it," she repeated. "They could not be controlled. Their power consumed them. The kindest thing we could do was lock it away so that no more of our children would be cursed with it." Danny stepped forward. "But is not consumed. She is still here. She is still herself." "For now," turned to, "Child, the council has decided. We will perform the sealing ritual. Your power will be locked away again. You will return to blindness, but you will be safe. Our people will be safe." Did not react. She sat quietly, watching the threads of light that danced around the chamber. "No," Danny said. Every in the room turned to look at him. "No," Danny repeated. "You are not sealing anything. She is not your property. She is a child who can finally see. I will not let you take that away from her." High Elder rose to her full height. "Human, you do not have the authority to stop us. This is a matter. She is under my protection." Danny did not back down. "And I am telling you that nobody is touching her." Elder stepped forward. His old body was shaking, but his voice was steady. "I am her grandfather, her only family, and I agree with the human. I will not let you seal my granddaughter's gift." Looked between them. "You do not understand what is coming." "Then explain it to me," Danny said. "Because right now, all I see is a group of people who are so afraid of the past that they are willing to hurt a child to feel safe." Before could respond, the lights in the chamber flickered. A cold wind blew through the room, though there was no source for it. Stood up, her eyes were wide. "It is here," she whispered. "It is trying to come through." Danny ran to the observation window. Outside, in the black space beyond the station, something was forming. A rift, a tear in reality itself. It glowed with colors that hurt to look at. And through that rift, something massive was pushing. Grabbed Danny's arm. Do you see now? Do you see what her power has called? Danny watched the rift grow larger. He could feel the wrongness of it in his bones, but he did not let go of hand. You want to seal her away, Danny said. But what happens to the thing on the other side? Does sealing her make it go away? Hesitated. It will lose its beacon. It will go back to sleep. For how long? Until the next is born, Danny shook his head. That is not a solution. That is just hiding. Tugged at Danny's sleeve. He looked down at her. I can see it clearly now, she said. The old ones, though they were not cursed, they were guardians. They used to stand between our world and the things beyond. But when they were sealed, there was no one left to protect us. Stared at, that is not what the histories say. Your histories were written by people who were afraid. Voice was stronger now. I can see the truth. They did not open the doors, they closed them, and when you sealed them away, you left those doors unguarded. The rift outside pulsed. The thing behind it pushed harder. I can close it, said, but I cannot do it alone. I need an anchor, someone whose light is strong enough to hold me here while I push the darkness back. She looked at Danny. Will you help me? She asked. Danny did not hesitate. Yes. High Elder stepped back. This is madness. You will both die. Danny smiled grimly. Maybe, but at least we will be trying instead of hiding. He picked up the visor from where it lay and placed it over eyes. The blazed with light. Show me what to do, Danny said. Took his hand. Just hold on. No matter what you see, no matter what you feel, do not let go. Danny gripped her small hand in his. I will not let go, he promised Danny, and walked to the observation deck. Behind them, the delegation followed at a distance. They were too afraid to help, but too curious to look away. The rift had grown larger. It filled half the view outside the station. Colors that should not exist swirled within it, and behind those colors, something massive moved. Danny could see shapes that his mind refused to understand, limbs that bent in wrong directions, eyes that opened and closed in patterns that made his stomach turn. What is that thing? Danny asked. It is old, said. Older than my people, older than the stars. It has been waiting on the other side for a very long time. It is hungry. Danny squeezed her hand. Can you really stop it? Looked up at him through the visor. The glowed so bright that it lit up her entire face. I can try, she said, but I need your help. My power lets me see the threads that hold reality together. I can weave them, strengthen them, close the tears. But the work takes everything I have. If I lose myself in it, I will drift away. I need you to keep me here. How? Your light placed her free hand over his heart. It burns so bright. It is full of stubbornness and hope and love. Those things are anchors. They hold people to this world. As long as you hold on to me, I will not lose my way. Danny nodded. He did not fully understand, but he did not need to. He just needed to hold on. Closed her eyes, the visor blazed, and Danny felt the world shift. Suddenly he could see what she saw, not with his eyes but with something deeper. He saw the threads of light that connected everything. The station, the people, the stars themselves. They were woven together like fabric, and that fabric was being torn. The rift was a wound in reality. The thing on the other side was pushing its fingers through, widening the tear, preparing to force its way in. Raised her free hand toward the rift. Threads of light gathered around her fingers. She began to weave. Danny watched in awe as she worked. She took broken threads and tied them together. She took loose strands and wound them tight. She was repairing reality itself, stitch by stitch, like a child mending a torn blanket. But the thing on the other side fought back. It pushed harder. The rift widened. Small body shook with the effort. Danny felt her grip on his hand loosen. He said firmly, "Stay with me." She did not answer. Her eyes were somewhere far away. She was drifting. Danny did the only thing he could think of. He pulled her close and held her tight. He thought about why he was here. Not because he was brave, not because he was special, but because he had seen a lonely child sitting in a corridor and he had refused to walk past. He thought about the toys he had made for her, the way she smiled when she heard the bells ring, the first word she had spoken to him, see. He thought about what he wanted for her, not power, not glory, just a chance to live, a chance to be happy, a chance to be more than a curse or a prophecy. He poured all of that into his grip on her hand. Eyes snapped back into focus. She looked at Danny, and even through the blinding light of the visor, he could see her smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she turned back to the rift and pushed. The threads of light blazed. The tear in reality began to close. The thing on the other side screamed, a sound that existed beyond hearing, a vibration that shook Danny's bones. It pushed and fought and clawed but did not stop. Strand by strand, she sealed the wound. The rift grew smaller, the thing retreated, its many eyes fixed on one final time filled with hunger and something else, recognition. It had faced her kind before, and it had lost. The rift closed, the colors faded, the void returned to empty black. Collapsed into Danny's arms. He caught her and held her. She was breathing, she was alive, she was smiling. "Did I do it?" she asked weakly. Danny laughed, tears streaming down his face. "You did it. You were amazing." Behind them, the delegation stood in stunned silence. High Elder stepped forward slowly. Her face held no more arrogance, only wonder. "For 1,000 years, we hid from this," she said quietly. "We sealed our seers and prayed that the darkness would not find us. And now, a human mechanic and a child have done what our entire civilization was too afraid to try." Danny looked at her. "Maybe next time, try listening to the kids instead of locking them away." Did not respond. She turned to her delegation and spoke in rapid. Danny did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. Something had changed. Elder rushed forward and gathered in his arms. He wept openly, holding his granddaughter like she was the most precious thing in the universe. Because she was. In the days that followed, the High Council made a decision. Would not be sealed. She would be trained. Scholars would come to study her abilities, not to contain them, but to understand them. And Danny Cole, the human mechanic who had started everything, would remain her protector. A month later, Danny sat in his workshop working on a new project. The door opened and walked in. She did not need the visor anymore. Her sight had become part of her. "What are you building?" she asked, climbing onto a stool beside him. "A better sensor array for the dock scanners. Nothing special." Watched him work. Her eyes saw the threads of light that connected every wire and circuit. "That wire should go there," she said, pointing. "I can see the path it needs to follow." Danny grinned. "Are you trying to take my job?" Shook her head. "No, I will always need you, not for your eyes." She placed her small hand over his heart. "For your light." Danny put down his tools and looked at her. This strange child who had changed his life. This small girl who had faced darkness that would have broken armies. "Well," he said, "I guess we make a pretty good team." Smiled. It was the same smile she had given him the first time he placed a toy in her hands. Full of trust, full of hope. "The best team," she agreed. Outside the workshop, the station continued its busy rhythm. Ships came and went. Refugees found homes. Life went on. But somewhere in the deep dark between stars, the things beyond the veil remembered. They had seen a light burning on 7, a small sun of stubbornness and hope. And they knew that as long as that light burned, the doors would remain closed. For now,